This bill was mentioned and read for the first time in this very revered chamber on Tuesday, 26 July 2022. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the one and sole intent of this bill is to enact a legislation that will seek to amend the provisions of the Constitution to provide for the rotation of power among the geopolitical zones, governorship among the senatorial districts and federal constituencies in general elections in Nigeria. This bill has become imperative considering the controversies trailing the nomination of persons for elections into various offices, especially the offices of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and governors of various states of the Federal Republic. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me humbly remind us that in our nation's constitution, there is what is called the federal character principle, which requires the fair and equitable representation of different ethnic and regional groups in the composition of all tiers of government. This was designed by the framers of the Constitution to ensure that there is no predominance of persons from a few states or a few ethnic groups or sectional groups in running the affairs of the country. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, one of our duties as legislators is to protect the Constitution of our dear country, Nigeria. And one way to do that is to support this bill because power rotation is a necessary lubricant that oils the federal character principle as enshrined in the Constitution. Mr. President, my very revered colleagues, in Nigeria, a multi-ethnic and diverse nation, the need to alternate power across the zones and governorship among the senatorial districts of the country cannot be overemphasized. This is because power rotation can be a veritable tool for our national integration, unity, inclusion, peace, and political stability. May I mention that for democracy to thrive anywhere, it must be adapted to suit the political reality of its environment. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for the progress of our democracy, equity and equality should define its process. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, time has come for us to reach certain peculiar compromises in respect to our political reality for the sake of our cohesion as a people. And one way to achieve this is through power rotation amongst all the geopolitical zones, governorship among the senatorial districts and federal constituencies of our country. Rotation of power is the strongest antidote against secessionist threats in this country. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, certain zones and regions felt marginalized and denied political power, and this has led to emotive violence and social unrest. The way forward to bring about political stability in the country, to give every section, zone, or group a sense of belonging and inclusion is to embrace rotation of political power with open hands. May I humbly submit, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that there is no section or zone in Nigeria that does not have the best person with the requisite competence, capacity, and character to lead at various political levels in Nigeria. Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, for the purpose of preserving our democracy, I urge you all to support the power rotation bill and pass it accordingly. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for the avoidance of doubt, this bill is not intended for the 2023 general elections because by the time this bill runs its full cycle, the 2023 general elections would have been concluded. Thank you for listening to me.